Dragon Quest games are few and far between, and that is especially true for home console owners. While Dragon Quest IX and a few remakes have found a home on the Nintendo 3DS, it's been 12 years since Dragon Quest VIII graced the PlayStation 2. Sure, there was Ten's Japan exclusive MMO, there were a couple of Musou games, and the Minecraft-esque Dragon Quest builders, but however you look at it, it's been a long time since fans of the series got to enjoy a straight-up Dragon Quest RPG. With that in mind, it makes a lot of sense for Square Enix to be pitching Dragon Quest XI as a new starting point. It's not just a culmination of everything that the series is about, but it needs to be open enough for series newcomers to be able to dive in and enjoy. As someone that only really dabbles with JRPGs, that's only a good thing. Of course, even with that slant in mind, this is a vast JRPG which promises over 100 hours of gameplay if you decide to explore every nook and cranny of the world, completing every side quest along the way. Even with a good 90 odd minutes of playtime, being dropped into the game early on and then skipping forward a few hours isn't exactly ideal for figuring out what's going on and what's new. Still, the story isn't too tricky to pick up. The hero in this game, which you can obviously name for yourself, and I would have picked Duncan personally, he comes from a little town called Cobblestone, which, weirdly enough, doesn't have many cobbled streets. At the traditional coming-of-age ceremony, it turns out that he's no ordinary boy, but rather the reincarnated luminary that is destined to fight a reawakened evil that is threatening the world. The twist in the tale, however, is that luminaries aren't necessarily heralded as saviours, but rather despised and suspected of bringing the dark times down upon the world. I find it's a slightly darker twist on a hero story that's maybe ever so slightly unbecoming of the bright and breezy Dragon Quest visuals. Journeying through the world, you're eventually joined by a rather colourful collection of companions. Eric's a seasoned traveller, Veronica is a diminutive young mage, Serena will be your go-to character for support magics, and Sylvando is the charismatic travelling performer whose garb has been clearly inspired by court jesters. Sylvando gets to spend a little time as your opponent when you first meet him in Gallopolis. It's a city with a rich history of horse riding, albeit with a prince who can't ride a horse to save his life and who has a race to win in the Sand National. Do you get it? Yeah, there's lots of puns here. Luckily for him and you, the hero is just about the right height and build to stand in as a body double and take part in a little horse riding minigame. Sadly, restrictions on the content we were allowed to capture mean that we can't really show you Sylvando or the horse riding. It's relatively straightforward fare as you try and hit the boosts, filling up your horse's stamina and drift around corners. Yes, there's horse drifting, but when Sylvando is racing around with a giant plume of pink feathers sprouting from the back of his saddle, I think we can put realism to one side for a minute. Naturally, the main meat of the game is actually going to be in exploring the world and battling foes with the series' traditional turn-based battles. While Dragon Quest had random encounters for a long time, Dragon Quest IX and the 3DS remakes of 7 and 8 ditched these in favour of showing enemies meandering around the world. What this means for 11 is that you can quite easily just gallop from one location to another without a care in the world. Your trusty steed will knock enemies flying if you run into them, and they're very easy to avoid anyway. If you slow down for a second though, you can run into them and trigger battles, or hop off and get a surprise strike by hitting them first, and you'll naturally need to do this in order to do a bit of grinding to level up your party of characters. We didn't manage to reach a boss fight while we were playing, but cleaving and blasting your way through these enemies isn't terribly tricky, using a familiar menu system to pick attacks and spells to cast in the turn-based battles. Taking some of the chore out of this, you can also leave battles up to the AI, simply setting a behaviour style for them to go all out, balance attacks, avoid magic, and so on. Naturally, if you are facing a particularly tricky opponent in a boss battle, you can then take complete control of your party and micromanage, but by default it's just the hero that is under your control and everybody else will do their own thing. What is there to really say about Dragon Quest XI's looks? Well, it's very Dragon Questy, with the series' distinctive style as created by Akira Toriyama effectively unchanged. Having been created in Unreal Engine 4 and built for the latest generation of hardware, however, it is gorgeous. There is a plainness to the design in some ways, but it absolutely works here to give an animated movie feel to the simplified, cartoonish character designs. One new feature over the Japanese release is the ability to switch to a first-person view and turn off the UI for a photo mode. One of the main hurdles that many Japanese games face is in localization, and the Dragon Quest series is absolutely no stranger to this. For Dragon Quest XI, they have gone all out, voicing even more of the game than for the original Japanese release last year, and making sure to pick as many quaint regional British accents wherever they could. I do get the feeling that they took a leaf out of Ni no Kuni's book for this decision. Beyond that, however, they've also gone back and redesigned the menus and the UI, adding a new dash ability so that you can run around the world much faster, in case you forget your horse, and brought a more challenging draconian quest difficulty mode. It's pretty clear that Square aren't really resting on their laurels for the Western release of this game, and they're actually going the extra mile to improve and polish what they hope can be a fresh start for the franchise. After such a long time though, Dragon Quest XI is just a more than welcome return to home console for the series. Thanks as ever for checking out our video. I hope you found it useful, informative. I mean, I know I'm not the most in-depth JRPG player, but I hope you've had a good look at this from a newcomer's perspective. So please do like, subscribe and share this video, and also come visit us over on the6axis.com. Hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!
That will be quite close enough. Welcome to Heliodor Castle, friend.